Have some very interesting 2020 poll numbers to get to in just a moment, but we will start with yesterday's hearing, which lasted for more than 5 hours. It was contentious as Democrats struggled to get more information on a key part of the Mueller report that claims in a June 2017 meeting in the Oval Office, the president told Lewandowski to instruct then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to announce publicly that the president had done nothing wrong and that the special counsel investigation was unfair. And since we have Ari here, let's play this key exchange between Corey Lewandowski and House Judiciary Counsel Barry Berke.
My question to you, sir, is on national television, did you lie about your relationship with the special counsel and whether they sought your interview?
I don't know.
Prior to the Mueller report being published in redacted form, did you ever misrepresent what you did on behalf of the president?
I can't think of an instance where that would have occurred.
Let me show you an interview that you did on May 14th, 2019.
I don't ever remember the president ever asking me to get involved with Jeff Sessions or the Department of Justice in any way, shape, or form ever.
Did you hear that, sir? That was you saying on MSNBC, you don't ever remember the president ever asking you to get involved with Jeff Sessions or the Department of Justice in any way, shape, or form. That wasn't true, was it, sir?
I heard that.
And that was not true, was it?
I have no obligation to be honest with the media because they're just as dishonest as anybody else.
So you're admitting, sir, you were not being truthful in that clip, correct?
My interview with Ari Melberg?
Yes.
Can be interpreted any way you'd like.
Why did you lie on national television, sir, about the president giving you a message to the Attorney General about the special counsel's investigation?
I don't recall that particular day and my mindset at the time, so I couldn't answer that.
And Ari, I can only think of one way to interpret that, especially after seeing what happened there in Washington yesterday. He lied, and he was caught in his tracks. You could see actually his momentum completely fall flat when they played that tape, and then he couldn't get out of it. So a lot of people already say that Democrats didn't get anything. What did they show? I feel like they showed a lot because Nancy Pelosi says this is about moving public opinion, that everybody's in the corner they're in, but we want to show the public what we believe happened, and we want to expose it and call it out. His attitude, his behavior, his flipness toward the process, his rudeness, he didn't take anything seriously, and then ultimately it was proven he lied before a national audience on your show. Isn't that part of the process here as we take certain steps toward impeachment, if that's what you're going for?
I think that's absolutely part of the process, Mika. I mean, a lot of what we saw yesterday was if you have nothing to hide, why are you hiding? If you didn't do anything wrong, why are you lying? If the story you have to tell about your own actions or how the Trump White House works is positive, why won't you tell it? I mean, we're dealing with someone, let's not forget, the president operates like a chief content officer. He wants to tweet, he wants to talk, he wants to tell. So why does Corey Lewandowski, when he's under oath, suddenly go quiet and go quizzling? Well, I think that's part of the problem for them. As for the moment you just showed, look, that's what it looks like when someone is cross-examined by a skilled lawyer, Mr. Berke, and that's what it looks like when someone, Corey Lewandowski, admits under oath they were lying. And to make it about the press is, of course, a side note and a trick. Forget Corey Lewandowski, who, as I've mentioned before, I had on the show and put the questions to him, and I'd love to have him back on and interview him again. But forget the press and him and me. Mr. Lewandowski was speaking on television to his own supporters, to the MAGA crowd, to the public, to America. And he was saying he didn't remember, he claimed this never occurred, that there was any attempt by the president to get him to kneecap the probe through Jeff Sessions. And that is what happened. And so why did Corey Lewandowski not even want to tell his own supporters the truth about that? Because at the end of the day, that incident looks very bad for them.
Harry, a question. Shannon brought this up in the last segment, this hocus pocus about executive privilege. And her point is that is within kind of the White House. And once you go outside of it, that there's no legal expert that stands behind that. So how come the Democrats don't use it? What lever can they use? Is an automatic contempt to just take that little stupid piece of paper away?
Well, right. You don't need to be an expert on this to know that White House privilege applies more to people at the White House than everyone else, just like attorney-client privilege as a claim works better if you invoke it with your attorney as opposed to, say, your waiter no matter how much you trust your waiter and how good the steak is.
What do they do about that?
So what do they do about it? I mean, ultimately, the Congress has to decide here on the Democratic side whether they want to hold them in contempt. That's a big deal.
What's the decision?
No brainer.
Go ahead, Willie.
Well, I mean, when you look at the core issue that came up when they played your clip, it is whether or not Corey Lewandowski took this directive from the President of the United States to the Attorney General. Lewandowski effectively said, I took the meeting, I had a meeting with the President of the United States. So he was, in fact, directing Corey Lewandowski to do this. He said, but he instead went on vacation. The Mueller report says, in fact, that Corey Lewandowski tried to set up a meeting with the Attorney General. The Attorney General backed out of the meeting. Was that, even though the meeting didn't take place, is not the admission that the President of the United States directed Corey Lewandowski to somehow influence the special counsel's investigation, an admission of obstruction in some form?
It's an admission, the way the lawyers would say it is, it's an admission of an element of obstruction.
Right.
And the element of obstruction goes to the president. And that's why Corey Lewandowski, to Mika's point, was in such a pickle yesterday. Because on the one hand, in fairness to him, and we've reported this before, the way he conducted himself may have been dishonest and, according to many law enforcement officials, dishonorable. But Bob Mueller's investigators never found that Mr. Lewandowski came close to committing a felony. They didn't charge him with that, let alone convict him of that.
Right.
What they found was he was pulled into, basically, if you want to put a fine point on it, attempted felonies by the sitting president.
Right.
And he actually, at times, tried to get out from under that. Why? That's why we're talking about the safe. On my show, he talked about how he didn't remember this. He was on his way to Dunkin' Donuts. All the safe, the donuts, all these details. The vacation. It all amounts to Corey Lewandowski saying, I know I was really near the bad thing, but I actually didn't help do it. I kind of walked away from it. And to be fair to him, Mueller's investigators found that credible with regard to Lewandowski, but bad for the president. That's why they use the term substantial evidence of crime by the president in the report.
You know, there's another core issue here I would submit, and it is this. Yesterday's appearance, Corey Lewandowski's appearance, could have been anyone on the opposition side. He appearing for the House Judiciary Committee. It was a total clown show. I mean, you lose the entire country when you put something like that on television, with rare exception. Barry Burke, a skilled prosecutor, asking questions of a defendant. Why they allow various members of Congress their 5 minutes of time on television to ask inane and ludicrous leading questions of Corey Lewandowski or anyone else, and not stick, not just in that hearing, but other contentious hearings, with a skilled, knowledgeable prosecutor. You know this. You've seen trials where prosecutors skilled at cross-examination can extract almost anything from a defendant on the witness stand. Why they don't do that is beyond me.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a great point, because this is one of those things where the people at this table, the people watching, we follow this stuff pretty closely. So we're talking about what the first Democrats did, and the first wave when they're fighting over Lewandowski saying, I don't have the report, hand it back to me. Then the second wave, then we're talking about the Burke questioning. But the overall takeaway for the American public, I think, was certainly a mixed decision yesterday.
Yeah.
And as the Democrats move forward, getting less time of politicians, sort of getting each of their 5 minutes, and more time of serious questioning earlier in the hearing might have been to their benefit.
Yeah, well, just the one element of Corey Lewandowski's transit during the request from the president to Corey to obstruct justice, let's be frank, was go down and see Jeff Sessions and tell him to end this Mueller investigation. Corey Lewandowski was skillful enough to know that if he had gone to justice and in the building, he would have had to sign in. There would have been a video record of him being there. There would have been a paper record of being there, and he would have been ensnared in the thing. A skilled prosecutor could have gotten that out of him.
I wonder if we had a skilled, knowledgeable prosecutor that we could talk to. Claire, I wanted to actually get to you about the NBC News Wall Street Journal polls, but any thoughts about Corey's performance yesterday?
Yeah, listen, first of all, it's unrealistic that the people in Congress are not going to try to grab the microphone in a congressional hearing. I get the point you're making about skilled prosecutors, and believe me, I've sat through long hearings where I wanted to muzzle some of my colleagues, but that's just not realistic. Secondly, Corey Lewandowski did exactly what he wanted to do yesterday. He had an audience of one.
Right.
He was talking directly to Donald Trump, And what he was trying to do is become Donald Trump's candidate for the U.S. Senate in New Hampshire. He needs Donald Trump in order to have any chance to take that Republican nomination in New Hampshire. So all of this yesterday was all about him proving to Donald Trump that he can be just as defiant, just as insulting, just as childish, and frankly, just as good a liar as the president.
So why not charge him with contempt? I mean, what more would it take at this point? I mean, don't the Democrats need to go a step further to get some information?
Well, they are, and Ari can speak to this too, they are in the middle of a lot of legal fights right now.
Right.
Because what this White House has done is unprecedented. They have basically shut down the oversight of Congress by refusing, I mean, this absolutely manipulation of executive privilege, the refusal to present documents to Congress. So they're fighting in the courts, but the problem is that's not easy to cover in a dramatic day-by-day fashion. So it gets lost in the public that there is this legal battle going on, but eventually these fights are going to come to a head, and we're going to make precedent as to whether or not this White House is going to be a new normal in terms of giving the stiff arm to Congress.
There you go.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.